Alright, so today we're going to have some fun and we are going to name some baby snakes. And let me tell you, most breeders of ball pythons, well, essentially what they do is they don't really name any of their snakes, especially the hatchlings. And I thought I'd kind of give my snakes kind of a more personal touch and name each and every snake in my entire reptile room. It's going to take a while to name them all. And right now I have 23 baby snakes set up in my hatchling rack. So what I'm going to do, I actually printed out 50 snake names here and I put them on little pieces of paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out each one of those snakes and I'm going to show them to you. I know some of them have been probed. We know the males and the females, but I say most of them haven't been. So we're going to have to figure out which one's male, which one's female, and then I'm going to pull a random name out of this jar and we're going to give the snakes names. And some of these names are males, some are females, and some are kind of gender neutral. So probably what I'll do is, like, if I have a male snake and I'll pull out a name, if it's a female snake name, I'll probably put it back and then pull another one until we can get a good name for a male or female or vice versa. So let's take a look at some of these baby snakes and check them out. All right, so I'm in the middle of the ball python breeding season. I probably have maybe another 50 or 60 snakes at least that I need to hatch out. Lots of eggs in the incubator, and this is what I have so far. So pretty much start at the top and start pulling them out. So I have a female fire that we'll start with. I'll pull her out, I'll set this up on a tripod and we can take a look at her. And I'll just work my way down. There's some of these that have actually eaten 6+ rodents. So they're big enough to actually kind of be, you know, almost transitioned over to frozen thawed. And some of these have eaten just once, a few here, and some of these, like my bamboos, have not eaten anything. And then some of the IDs I'm not 100% sure on, so we'll just kind of go with what's on the labels here, and I'll kind of figure out some of the IDs as they mature a little bit. I had labeled these as pastel bamboos. I think they're pretty much bamboos. And then I had a normal. People were saying it could be a pastel on one of my normals, but I'm just going to go with what's on the label, and we'll change it down the road if the ID is not right. So I'm just going to start here with the female fire, pull her out, and let's take a look at that snake. All right, so here is the first snake. This is a female fire. This is actually 100% het pied. So essentially what I did is I bred my fire pied to a normal, and I got this fire 100% het pied. We know it's 100% het pied because we're 100% sure it carries one copy of the recessive pied gene. And you can kind of see, normally like on a normal, you can see some tracks on the belly. Usually when you mix it with other genes like this one with a fire, you really can't see the tracks down the belly. But she is a really good looking snake. You can kind of see her belly there. And see if she can relax a little bit. You can see her a little bit better. She's, yeah, I pulled her out like a week ago, and she was really snappy, just kind of snapping on everything. And then usually once you handle them just a little bit, they really calm down quite a bit. She is a good looking snake. So let's see if we can find a female snake name for this girl. All right, so I'm gonna have Bobby here help me pick a name. I don't think he can reach into the jar and actually pull out a label, but I'm gonna actually pull one of these out and see if we can find a good name for that snake. And here is the first name for the first snake. It is actually Noodle. The name is Noodle on the first snake. That is a pretty cute name. All right, so in this tub, this is actually Noodle's brother. This is the brother of Noodle. This is just a normal 100% het pied. So this actually came from the same pairing. Didn't get the fire gene, but it is het pied, and you can see probably really good on this one. The het pied usually has some pretty strong tracks. Not really super strong. Sometimes they'll have really dark lines right along both sides. This one doesn't really have major tracks on the belly, but he's still a really good looking snake. I'd say he's got some really good highlights, some really good golden color, really dark darks. Sometimes the normals are lighter or darker. This is a really good looking snake, and he needs a name, so let's pick out another name for this guy. All right, so I'm gonna pick another name from this jar. I'll kind of mix it up just a little bit, and we'll take a look and see if we can find a good male name. That is definitely not a male name. Let me get a different one. Let's see here. That is not a male name either. All right, we're getting desperate now. We're on the third pick. Let's see if we can find another male name. This one's pretty good. Let's go with this one. This is Echo. That is a nice name for that snake. Echo. All right, here's another snake. This is actually a male. This is a male fire, 100% het pied. So this came from the same clutch. This is the brother of Echo, and Noodle is his sister, which is, we're starting to get a family going here with the names. This is a pretty impressive snake. It looks like these are, this is, you really probably, I don't know if you can tell on this one if it has the tracks on the belly. No, definitely no het pied tracks. Sometimes you can see them on some morphs, sometimes you can see them on others. But this is a really good looking snake. No problems at all with this guy. He's got an interesting, this kind of looks like a cow or something on the side. It's got some interesting patterns. And this is what a fire looks like. Fire, 100% het pied. You really can't tell, I don't think on this one, that has any influence from the het pied. Looks like just a straight fire. If you wouldn't know the breeding, you probably wouldn't know. But let's get a name for this guy. All right, so this time we need another boy name. So we'll shake this up a little bit. I can't remember how many girls and how many boy names I actually put in there. There's 50 names to start with. And I wasn't really paying attention which one was which. This is actually a girl name. Let's try another name. This one, I guess this is a good name. Check this out. This is Flicker. That snake is named Flicker. That is a cute snake name. All right, so here's another one that came from the same clutch. This one is a male normal, 100% het pied, and it came from the siblings of this one are Echo, Flicker, and Noodles. We're starting to start a family tree here of snakes. And you can see on this one, since it's 100% het pied, you really can't tell too much of the tracks. Really, actually down by the tail more, you can really see the tracks right down here. And this is what we're talking about as far as tracks for a het pied. Sometimes you can really see them and sometimes you really can't. If someone gave me this snake, I would say I'm not sure it's 100% het pied, but we know for sure it is because of the pairing. So let's get a name for this boy. All right, so Bobby here is gonna help me pick another male snake name out of the jar. We'll see if we can find one. The first pick this time. This one is, I guess this is a pretty good name. This one is, it's pretty much a gender neutral. This one is Bender. That is a good snake name. So now we're getting into the snakes that I haven't figured out the males and the females, and I thought I'd show you real quick the first one, kind of how I do it. I use this probe kit with these metal probes, and I actually use the smallest little tiny metal probe right here and stick it in the tail pocket of the snake. I use a little bit of this personal lubricant jelly and just put a little bit right on the probe. Now let me show you this snake. This snake is super, super small. I actually tried to feed him once and he didn't eat. And he's just barely hatched out and barely shed. But look at how tiny this one is. This is a straight normal from a different clutch, and there's no hets or anything. There's no genes. This is just like a regular wild type ball python. This is about as cheap of a snake as you can get. Usually the females, if you can actually get a female, grow it up to breeding size, they sell for usually $150, $200, something like that. But if you get a male, they don't really have much value other than a pet. It's a fantastic first snake. And then you can see on this one, it almost looks like belly tracks like the other ones. I'm thinking this one is so small and skinny that I'll probably eventually have to end up force feeding or assist feeding the snake. And essentially what you do is you put a rodent right in the mouth, and you kind of, it's really hard to do. I actually have a video about assist feeding where I assist feed a snake, and it's kind of tricky. Sometimes you have to do it multiple times before they'll take it. But what I want to do is I'm going to see if this guy is a male or a female. And essentially what you do is, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. I don't know how well you can see this. I don't know how well this is going to work with such a tiny, tiny snake. But what you do is you put the probe right in the tail pocket right here. And this one might not actually work very well, I don't know. With such a tiny, tiny snake. It is really super hard to tell on this one. Oh, I don't know. It's not really relaxing. You really have to get the snake to relax. It's only going in just a little bit, I would say. Oh, I would say this is probably almost too small to probe, because with a really small hatchling, the probe doesn't really fit in there. I almost need a smaller probe than this, and I would kind of guess a female, just because the probe's not going in all the way. It didn't go in deep enough to be a male, so I'm going to guess on this one as a female with a question mark. What we're really going to have to do is we're going to have to wait until this one gets a little bit bigger, and probably what I want to do is name it kind of a gender neutral name on this one. So we'll check this one out. Alright, so we are going to pick a name for the runt. I was actually thinking about putting runt in here as a name, and I thought, you know, actually that would be a good name for that snake, but they pretty much grow out of it, and when that snake grows up and matures, you would never know that it was the runt of the litter. So let's see what we can get for a snake name. Oh, this one's good. I think this is good for a male or a female. This is Sweetie. All right, that snake is called Sweetie. All right, so here's the next snake, and I'm starting to realize two things. Number one, I don't think we're gonna make it through all 23 snakes. I think we should cut it maybe at 12, and we'll just do half the snakes today, and then we'll do another naming session sometime in the future. And the other thing is I think these are pretty much too small to figure out the males from the females. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of try to give them gender neutral names. This one actually happens to be just a straight pastel with nothing else in it. Really beautiful snake. Take a look at the belly. I really want to show you the whole snake, top and bottom, and the bellies. It's got some interesting little alien heads right here, which is interesting for a pastel. I'd say it's pretty unusual for pastel to actually have any alien heads. So this one doesn't have any heads or anything, just a really bright, straight pastel. Let's see if we can find a name for this guy. So I have to tell you, I am pretty excited about actually naming these snakes. It makes it more like family instead of someone saying, hey, I want your pastel C031905 or whatever the number is for the clutch and whatnot. It's, you know, instead of that, you know, you can say, hey, I want to buy Slinky or something like that. And it really makes it more personable instead of just being kind of a generic breeding operation. It's more of a, I'd say it's more of a intimate relationship with your snakes, which is pretty cool. This is a pretty good name. I think maybe it could be more of a male. Maybe, I'm not sure if you can name a female this. Maybe you could, but I'm going with this name. Here it is. That pastel's name is Monty. There you go, Monty the pastel. All right, so here is the first bamboo, and I know everybody's kind of an eye on these bamboos. I only have 2 of them in my rack so far, and this one I thought was a pastel bamboo, but now that I look at the head, I really don't think that there is pastel in there. Usually the pastel has a more faded head. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the pastel on the label till I get down the road and I have a whole bunch of bamboos, and then I can figure out for sure which one is which. I kind of like to leave the possible genes in there until they age, get a few more rodents in them, and probably what I'll do is I won't probe these guys until they have 6 meals in them, and then I'll know for sure the males and the females, and I won't be selling them before then anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But we'll have to find another gender neutral name for this awesome bamboo. So if you're wondering where I got the snake names from, I actually did an internet search and I looked up pet snake names and I found multiple lists, and I kind of went through and picked the best name from each list, and that's kind of how I compiled all these names together. And we'll see if we can find a good name for that one. This is a pretty cool name. I guess it could be male or female. Check this out. This is Boots. That bamboo is named Boots. All right, so here is another bamboo, and this one is actually kind of the same way as the other one. They both haven't eaten anything yet. No meals at all. These are pretty much fresh out of the egg, and they've just barely shed. I tried to feed them once, and they didn't eat it. I'd say about half the snakes in this clutch actually ate. These guys didn't eat yet. Not really worried about them. They still have some good body condition. I usually don't really worry and get to the point where I'm assist feeding until I'm like a month and a half or 2 months down the road, and then I start to get concerned. But at this point, it's been a couple weeks since they hatched. Not really concerned at all. So let's find a name for this one. This one's kind of interesting because it kind of has washed out sides, has a really reduced pattern, and you know the bamboo morph is really polymorphic, so you'll see a lot of variations. Sometimes you'll have really strong patterns down the sides, and sometimes you won't see any patterns at all. And usually the bellies are completely white. Most of the awesome color and pattern is on the top of the snake. All right, so Bobby here is gonna help me pick another name, and that snake is actually the same morph as Bobby. Bobby is a bamboo ball python. Really incredible snakes. They feed really well. No genetic defects as far as I've seen. They're in the blue-eyed leucistic family. A really awesome morph. I really love the bamboo stuff. Let's see if we can find another one. This one's pretty cool. I guess it could be male or female. Here you go for that bamboo. It is Yoda. That's a cool snake. The cool name for a bamboo ball python. All right, so this is a pretty interesting snake. This is actually from the same clutch, and when it hatched out, it had a super light head. Let me see if I can show you the head on this. As a matter of fact, everyone was saying, hey, that looks like a super pastel because of how light the head is. And look, the head really darkened quite a bit. And let me tell you, this is probably one of the best examples of the brightest yellow ball python pastels that I've seen. This is just a straight pastel, and then this is so bright and amazing. I'm almost tempted to keep this for my own collection. I don't, you know, the pastel, there's a whole bunch of different lines of pastel. This one actually popped out of my Lemon Blast, which is really yellow on the belly, and I think it's a really intense line of pastel. And I'm thinking now that I isolated the pastel, maybe I'll keep this and work it back into my other snakes. Of course, I don't know if I have the tubs to really hold another just a straight pastel back, but it would be pretty awesome to work this exact version of pastel back into some of my stuff. And I'm thinking about at some point getting another rack, and I can actually hold more stuff back. So I'm not sure if I have the room for this, but I would really like to hold this back. So let's see if we can find a name for this one. All right, so I got pretty lucky on the last one and pulled out a gender neutral name right from the start. I'm starting to think maybe I should have pulled all kind of gender neutral names, so I really didn't have to kind of struggle between, yeah, this one is actually a female name. Maybe I'll start pulling them out and putting them to the side. This one is a male name, and I kind of want gender neutral. I would say that's a female name. And let's see if we can find another one. Oh, this one's pretty cool. I'd say this one is kind of gender neutral. This is the Golden Nugget. That's a perfect name for that snake, Nugget. That is definitely the Golden Nugget. All right, so I'm going to do 3 more snakes. We'll give them names, check them out real quick, and then we'll call it good for this naming session. This is actually just a straight normal, and the interesting thing about this one is it almost looks like kind of like a pastel. Some people are saying, hey, that really looks like a pastel with the white lips. Some people are saying the white lips are kind of an indication of pastel. Let me tell you, I have quite a few normals that have white lips, so I don't know if that is really an indication of a pastel. And this one really doesn't have the broken up pattern, and it's definitely not as intense yellow as my other ones. I would say I have a pretty good feeling this one is just a straight normal ball python. So let's see if we can find a name for this one. All right, so let's pick out one more name for this snake. Actually, we have 3 more. This is one of 3. It has to be another gender neutral name That's a female name. All right. All right, let's see what we have here. That's a female name. All right, I might have to read up my names here. This one, I guess this could be male or female. This is a good name. That snake's name is Pepper. Nice name. That is the perfect name for a normal ball python. All right, so here is another normal ball python. I'm not sure if it's a male or female. These haven't eaten anything. They pretty much just hatched out, and look at how dark this one is. I'm not sure if the other one was as dark as this. The blacks are really super dark. Just a straight normal. You can see on this one, let's take a look at the belly. Sometimes the bellies are really awesome on these normals. This one is pretty much a normal belly on the snake. It's got some interesting patterns on the sides. Not really any really strong alien heads. Usually like in here, this is what we're talking about with an alien head. Kind of looks like a ghost with the eyes. That is what we're talking about when we talk about alien heads. Really good looking normal. So let's get a name for this one. So what I'm actually thinking about doing is, instead of going through afterwards, after they hatch, and going through whole racks and trying to name them all, maybe I should name them when I'm actually taking them out of the egg box. That'd be kind of cool, because, you know, if you get a whole rack of 100 snakes and you're trying to name them all, that is, let me tell you, that's a long video to try to do it that way. So let's see if we can pull another name out of here. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. I think this will work for a male or a female. Here's a good name. Check it out. This one is Fluffy. All right, that is another good name for a normal. All right, so here is the last one that we're going to name today. This one is actually a lesser, and it just shed. If you don't know about lessers, they are incredible snakes. It's just a co-dominant gene. Lesser is in the blue-eyed leucistic complex, so you mix it with bamboo or Russo or Mojave, and you get an all-white snake with bright blue eyes. And you see, just a regular lesser doesn't really have the blue eyes, but it is a really impressive morph. I have some adult females that are really impressive snakes. So let's see if we can find a name for this one. Let's see if I can open her up, him or her, a little bit more, and you can kind of see there's really no pattern on the belly. And it looks like he's got little alien heads. So this is like a classic alien head. And the funny thing is in most morphs you don't really see alien heads other than in normals. So that's kind of interesting. They actually see some on this lesser, but you can, even though it has alien heads, you can definitely tell this is obviously a lesser. So let's find a name for this snake. All right, so Bobby is gonna help me on this one. He's kind of going crazy now that he's been on my shoulders for quite a while during this video. He is having a good time, let me tell you. And I want to see if I can find another good name for that lesser. Let's see if we can find one. Oh, this is a good name. I think this is kind of a gender neutral as well. Whoa, I kind of freaked out Bobby here. And actually I didn't put Bobby's name in there because we already have one Bobby. We don't need two Bobbies. This is a good name for that one. This is Yuki. Yuki, the lesser ball python. All right, so I'm going to stop here, but I just wanted to show you real quick the labels that I have set up. So I actually ran out of the small labels and had to go to my big label. It seems like when I run out, I have to go to the big ones until I can buy more of the small label. So you can kind of see here, I have the name Bender. It is a male 100% het pied, and why I like the small ones is because I can fit all the info on there, and then I can put these little magnetic stickers right underneath that it says he's ate 6 rodents. Once they ate 6 rodents, they will eat anything, and I don't have to worry about assist feeding or how many they've eaten or anything. I usually keep track, so these have eaten 1 here, this one's eaten 3, this one's up to 4, and sometimes they can get really picky, especially if they don't eat anything like these down here. When they first hatch out, it is kind of touch and go, and you're never sure. You kind of want to track the first 6, and then after that, it doesn't really matter. They'll eat anything naming that you throw in there. So it's pretty cool that here's Yoda and Boots and Bender and Echo and Noodle and all these snakes. I have Nugget, Yuki, Fluffy, and Pepper. I have some really cool snakes. Alright, so I have to admit that naming my ball python hatchlings adds an entire new dimension to my ball python breeding operation. You know, before it was just kind of a rack full of snakes and they all had pretty much numbers and letters to identify the hatch, the clutches and the pairings and everything. And now it really personalizes these snakes, and I can pick out specific snakes. As a matter of fact, if I'm talking about, if I'm talking about Noodle, you know exactly which snake I'm talking about, instead of, the pastel that's one of 20 pastels. Last year I hatched out like 20 or 30 bamboos, and I didn't even know which one was which at the end. I really had to look at the numbers and letters on the label to track it, and now it's really personable that you can track it to a name. As a matter of fact, when I was selling snakes at the show, a lot of people come up to my table and they look at my snakes and they say, "Oh, that's a cool snake. What's its name?" And I was like, well, if you buy the snake, you can name it. Let me tell you, it's completely different now that I actually have names associated with the snakes. Of course, this is Bobby, and Bobby's not for sale, but it's a lot better if you're actually buying the snake and you get a snake with a name. I think it's a lot more intimate when you're buying an animal that already has a name. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.